In the last lecture, we learned how to configure a unique index on a field. Another option which we can configure is partial filter for an index. So, what is a partial filter and what do we mean by partial index? A partial index in MongoDB is a specialized type of index that indexes only a subset of documents in a collection based on a specified filter expression. And this technique can significantly improve query performance and reduce storage overhead, especially for the large collections. Let's try to understand it with an example. So let's say we are building an application where we are mostly going to filter users who is older than or equal to 40. Now, this might be required to add some extra functionality in your application, maybe to provide special benefits to the user older than 40. So we are assuming that from the users collection, we are mostly going to fetch users older than 40. Other users, we might not want to fetch them that often. Now, when we create an index on age field for that, it will have a lot of values in the index that we will never actually query for. Because here we are interested in querying only those documents where the age is greater than or equal to 40. So any index which is created for age less than 40, we are not going to use it that often. Okay, so in that case, we will have a lot of values in the index that we might never use. And the index will still be efficient, but it will be unnecessarily big. And you need to understand that when we create an index, it also takes some space on the disk. And another thing which you need to remember is if an index is too big, some queries might be less performant. So in this case, what we might want to do is we want to create an index in such a way that we only want to have pointers to the user documents where the age of the user is greater than or equal to 40. For users who are not older than 40, we don't want a pointer to those documents in the index. And if we want to fetch such users whose age is less than 40, for that we are okay to have a collection scan. And this can be easily achieved by using partial index. So how do we create a partial index? To create a partial index, again we use create index method. And for the first argument, we specify an object where we specify the field on which we want to create the index and in which order we want to create it. So this we already know. Then we also pass a second argument where we can specify some options, some configuration for the index. In the last lecture, we talked about unique configuration. We also have this configuration called partial filter expression. And to this, we assign a condition. In this condition, we specify how do we want to filter the documents. So the index which we want to create here is in that index, we only want to have pointers for the documents where the age is greater than or equal to 30. So I'm taking this example from this users collection. Okay, so from this users collection, I want to create an index in such a way that the index will be created on the age field, and in the index we will have pointers only to those documents where the age is either greater than or equal to 30. And for that we can use this partial filter expression option. And in this way it is going to create an index on the age field, but in that index we will have few pointers. We will not have pointers for all the documents in the users collection. We will have few pointers. So here we have specified that the age should be greater than or equal to 30. So in the pointers we will have ages which is greater than 30 from this users collection. So in this users collection, we have age 28, 26, which is less than 30. So for these two documents, we will not have any pointer in the index. Then for this document where the age is 32, we will have a pointer. Other documents where the age is less than 30, we will not have pointer. And where we have age greater than 30, we will have a pointer. So in this case, we will have pointer to these three documents where the age is greater than 30. For rest of the documents where the age is less than 30, we will not have a pointer in the index. And this is called as partial index because in this index, we don't have a pointer to all the documents in a collection. Instead, we have pointers to partial documents in the collection. And to which documents the index should point to, that we decide using this partial filter expression. And there we specify the condition. In the condition here, you can use equality, non-equality, you can use comparison operators, etc. And a partial index can also be created on compound indexes where we have multiple fields. So this is one example. Let's take another example. In this example, again, I want to create an index on the age field. So in the previous example, we created an index on the age field and we also used age field for the condition. But this is not mandatory. This is not required. You can have a different field for writing the condition. So in this example, what we are doing is we are creating an index on age field, but we are writing the condition for gender field. In the partial filter expression, we are using the gender field. So here what will happen is an index will be created on the age field, and in that index we will have pointers to those documents in the users collection where the gender is male. For those documents where the gender is female, for those documents we will not have an index. We will not have a pointer in that index. So the index will look something like this. As you can see, since we have created an index on the age field, the elements are sorted here by age field. But since we have specified a partial filter expression where we are saying that we want to have index for only those documents where the gender is male, here we will have pointers to only those documents where the gender is male. Where the gender is female, for example, for this document and for this document, there is no pointer in the index. So this is what partial index is. Now, before we talk about the advantage of having a partial index, let's first see it practically. So I'm going to write the command here where I'm going to create an index on the age field and I'm going to create a partial filter expression. I'm going to write a partial filter expression on the gender field. So here let's say db.users, which is the collection name, dot create index. I'm going to create a new index. Okay. Here first we are going to specify on which field do we want to create an index. I want to create an index on age field in ascending order, and then we can specify the second argument. Here we can specify some configurations. For example, if you want to create a unique index, you can specify unique to true. But here I don't want to create a unique index. Instead, I want to write a partial filter expression here. And here I will say that in the index, I want to have pointers only for those documents where the gender is male. Okay. So an index will be created on age field, and in that index we will have pointer to only those documents in the users collection where the gender is male. Now before I run this command, I also want to check what are the current indexes we have on the users collection. So for that we can use this get indexes method on the users collection, and currently we have three indexes, one on age and gender field, one on email field, and one on ID field. So I'm going to delete maybe these two indexes, or maybe I'll keep this third index. I'll delete this index which I'm creating on age and gender. So for that we can say db dot users dot drop index. Okay, here we are going to specify how we have created the index. So we created the index on the age field and gender field. Okay, let me go ahead and let me drop this. Let's again run this get indexes, and now we have only two index, one on underscore id field and one on email field, and both of these indexes are unique indexes. So this is by default a unique index, and this unique index we created in our last lecture. Now let me go ahead and let me create this index, and before that let me change this age here. So age should be in uppercase, and also this gender should be in uppercase, and for that the value is also in uppercase, so it should be uppercase male. Let me copy this. Let's paste it here and let's press enter. So a new index has been created on the age field. Now let's go ahead and let's query the users collection by using this find method. And let's say we want to find all those documents where the age is, let's say, greater than equal to maybe 60. So our expectation is, since we have created a filtered index, in this result, it should not return us any document where the gender is female. Let's see if that's the case. If I press enter, you will see this document itself, the last document here, there the gender is female. Now why is that? That's because here we are filtering for all those documents where the age is greater than or equal to 60. Right. Here we have not specified anything related to gender. So MongoDB is smart enough here, and it is going to filter all the documents where the age is greater than or equal to 60. Here it is not going to check for gender. It is going to filter all the documents where the age is greater than or equal to 60. Whether in that document the gender is male or female, that does not matter. And in this case, for this filter, MongoDB is not going to use the index which we have created here. It is not going to use the index which we have created on the age field. Let me actually show you that. So let me clear the shell here, and let's again run this find query. And on that, let's also use explain method. And there, let's pass the argument as execution stats. Okay, let's go ahead and let's run this command. And you will see that here MongoDB has done collection scan. It has not done index scan. That means it is not using the index which we have created. It is not using the partial index. Okay, and that is because in this index, we will not have all the documents where the age is greater than or equal to 60. And MongoDB understands that. So that's why it has not used this index. Instead, it has done collection scan. But if I go ahead and if I try to search for a document where the age is greater than or equal to 60 and the gender is male, in this case, MongoDB will use that index. If I press enter, now you will see that it has done an index scan. So in this case, the filter index is being used. And the filter index is being used because we are trying to fetch the documents based on both age and gender field, where the gender is male. If we specify gender as female, in that case, again, the collection scan will happen because in the index, we will not have any pointer to the documents in the collection where the gender is female. So in that case also, this index will not be used. Instead, MongoDB will do a collection scan. Okay, or otherwise, if you have any other index on the age field, then that index will be used. Now, some of you might ask, what is the difference between compound index and partial index then? Well, partial index is smaller in size. It stores pointers to only few documents in the collection. On the other hand, compound index will store a pointer to all the documents in the collection. And for the partial index, the insert operations are also faster. For example, for this index, if we will insert a document where the gender is not male, where the gender is female, in that case, MongoDB will not have to update this index because in this index, we don't want to have any pointer to the document where the gender is female. So this index will not be updated when a new document will be inserted where the gender is not male. So in that way, it improves the performance of insert operation. Now, let me show you another important point about this filter index. So if I get back all the indexes which we have on this users collection, you will see here we have an index, a unique index on the email field. So let me go ahead and let me query the first document from the collection, or maybe I already have one insert statement here, this one. So let's say I want to insert a new document in the collection where the name is Alice Williams 1. So here I have changed these values, but with this email, we already have a document in this users collection. So we have already seen this in our last lecture that if I try to insert this document in the collection, since we are trying to insert a duplicate email and on the email field we have a unique index, if I go ahead and if I press enter, we will get an error here. So we are trying to insert a document where we have a duplicate value. So here, since we have a unique index on this email field, it will not allow us to insert this value. But if I go ahead and if I try to insert this document without an email field, let's see what happens. Let me copy this command. Let's paste it here. And if I press enter, in that case, you will see that that document has been inserted, even though we have not specified the email field. And the reason is, in MongoDB, no value is also treated as a value. So since all the documents in the user's collection already had an email, when we try to insert a new document without any email, that means for the email field, we don't have any value. And that no value is also treated as a unique value. That's why it has been inserted. But if I try to insert the document again with the name, let's say Alice Williams 2, and this time again, I'm not specifying the email field. Now, if I try to insert the document, since we already have a document in the users collection where one of the document does not have an email field, if I try to insert another document with no email field, this time we will get again the duplicate key error where the email is null. So this null value is treated as a unique value. So the document which we inserted earlier, there since we don't specify the email field will not be there and its value will be treated as null. So since we are trying to insert another document where we don't have an email field, that means there also the email value will be treated as null. So no two documents can have the same value. That's what we have learned about the unique indexes, right? So since we are trying to insert another document where there is no email, the email value will be null. And since we already have a document with that null value for the email, it is not allowing us to insert this document. So this is the default behavior. Now let's say what our requirement is, and this is also a very important interview question for you. Let's say our requirement is that we don't need email field for all the documents. So we should be able to insert documents with no email field. But when we do specify an email field, that email value should be unique. I want to allow inserting documents in the user's collection without any email field. That should be allowed. But when we are specifying a value for the email field, that value must be unique. Now, how can we implement this functionality? In this case, we can make use of partial index. So what I will do is let's go ahead and let's drop that unique index from the email field. So for that, let's say db.users.drop index. Okay. And here we want to drop index from the email field. Let's go ahead and let's press enter. And let's go ahead and let's call get indexes. So now we have only two indexes, one on the ID field and one on the age field, where we also specifying the partial filter expression. All right, now what I want is I again want to create a unique index on the email field. So for that, again, I'll say db.users.create index. So we are calling this create index method. There we want to create an index on the email field in ascending order. And we also want to create a unique index. So again, I'll set this unique to true. And with that, we are also going to set the partial filter expression. And what are we going to specify here? Here, we are going to use this $exists operator. And we are going to check if the email field exists. So this here, this simply means that we are only going to add the unique index on the documents where the email field exists. That means the unique index will only contain pointer to those documents in the user collection where the email field is present with some valid value. Other documents where the email field is not present, it will not have a pointer in this unique index which we are creating on this email field. So basically, when a new document will be inserted in the collection, if in that document we are specifying the email field, for that document we will have a pointer in this index. But if the email field is not present in the document which we are inserting, for that document there will be no pointer in this index. And in that way, The uniqueness will be checked only for those documents where the email field is present and not for those documents where the email field is not specified. I hope you got the point. So if I go ahead and if I press enter, okay, here we have an issue because we also need to specify the field name, which is email, and then we need to open it and close it. So we forgot to specify which field do we want to check whether it exists or not. Okay, let's press enter now. So you can see that the index has been created. Now let me go ahead and let me try to insert this document where we are not specifying an email field. It should allow us to insert this document. So that document has been inserted, as you can see. And if we specify an email field here with some duplicate email value, and let's say I will change the name to Ellis William 4. Now if I try to insert this document, since here we have an email field, on this the unique index will be applied. And if this email ID is not unique, this document will not be inserted. If I press enter, you can see here we are getting an error. But let's say if I change this to something else, maybe Alice 1 Williams, and now if I try to insert this document, since there is no other document with this email address, in that case, that document should be inserted because this time the email value will be unique. If I go ahead and if I press enter, the document has been inserted. So this is one use case where we can use partial index. All right. So the partial index is useful when you know that from a collection you are only going to query few documents based on a given field value. Otherwise, full index is better option. So in this lecture we learned what is partial index. In the next lecture, let's learn another type of index called time to live.